I'm here today with Dan and Craig, who are two of our ambassadors from Dorset Mind. It's National Stress Awareness Day, November the 4th, and we're here to talk to you a bit about stress, how to recognise the signs, what it means, and also to speak to these guys about their lived experience and how they've dealt with it in their lives, whether it be in the workplace or personally. So if we look at stress, I think everyone has some level of stress, and obviously stress can be really good on some levels, but it's when the body feels threatened and under pressure constantly, and that's when it can actually become a negative thing. And then it can also obviously lead to long-term issues. So Dan, I know that your company's been doing some research recently. Have you got any stats or any body that you can add to that, please?
Yeah, definitely. So with my work, I'm one of the co-founders of a company called Wellgood. We go into businesses and help them with their mental health, and we recently were part of a study of over 3,000 people, looking at stress, anxiety, and depression during the first 6 weeks of lockdown. And what we found was that people are experiencing significantly more symptoms of stress, anxiety, and depression, with women and young people the most affected part of that. So I think the study showed that 64% of individuals showed common signs of depression, and 57% of those individuals were showing signs of anxiety. Now, that's far higher than what we would consider as normal.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that you could also say that is also normal in these times where, we've had such a strange, weird year, haven't we, with COVID, and it has really heightened people's poor mental health, and also provoked poor mental health in people that haven't actually been experiencing or hadn't previously experienced. So Craig, I know that you have obviously lived experience of anxiety, certainly. So what are the signs of anxiety, stress? Sorry.
Yeah, so you've got obviously people feeling overwhelmed. There's too much going on. Racing thoughts, difficult to concentrate. You've got people being very irrational. So also like you mentioned there, being anxious and scared. Obviously, you don't know what's going to happen based on the level of stress you got. I said irrational, but I actually meant irritable. But they're probably the same, to be honest. Like having bad thoughts, but also like just being on edge, like biting and snapping at people when you normally wouldn't. Like people are they're your loved ones by any means, and you're just like snap. But yeah, I mean, also like stresses of like trying to sleep, feeling tired all the time. It's draining to the brain, just constantly thinking all the time, like stressing about X, Y, and Z. It takes a lot out of you. So yeah, but again, it can show in people in different ways. There's so many different variants, but yeah, they're like one of the key ones that most people tend to be, and obviously sleep is kind of usually a big one, and people always feeling tired when they're stressed.
Yeah, definitely. I think lack of sleep is a real problem. I don't know about you guys, but I know that it's certainly affected me certainly during the first lockdown. So we'll see what happens with the second lockdown too.
Yeah.
Dan, I know that the same for you, really. With sleep, it's a huge problem, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. I've been known not to sleep, with myself, and I've been known to often put out my best work at 3 a.m. in the morning. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone, but, you've got to be forgiving at times. But, things that often cause that, though, from a stress point of view or, lack of sleep, that there are loads of different things that can cause that, personally. But, I think, looking over the guidance that Mind have given over the years, there's things like being under lots of pressure or facing big changes in life. And obviously we've been through that, as a whole community, worrying about things, not having much or any control over the outcome of a situation. I know personally that's a big thing for me, as I like to be fully in control of, from a work process, or even at home, I love to be in control of something, and having responsibilities that you find overwhelming, or not even having enough work, things like that can make you stressed. Just really times of uncertainty, and I think we can all relate to that at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's a tough one, like you say there. Like, it can come from being too overworked and then not having enough because you feel like you should be doing something. And it's just a really fine, hard balance, especially like in lockdown and stuff like that, where people are working from home. Like, you probably have that kind of, there's like an underlying stress where you've got like, where you're on Teams, or you're on Slack, or you're on whatever it is you're using, Zoom and stuff like that, and messengers and stuff, and it shows that you're online. It's like, God, if I go get a cup of tea, then it's going to show to my boss that I'm not online, and it just adds that level of stress that you just wouldn't have got normally, because you're in an office and you can just like go get a cup of coffee and feel fine about it. So,
yeah. It's interesting you say that, actually, because Mind have done some research recently, and they call it the always on culture, which we're always on our phone, always on tech, and it is really draining. I know that sometimes even at Dorset Mind we have back-to-back meetings, and that can be really draining, and also take away that personal contact, because I think there's only so much that you can get from a 3D screen. It's, even though we're more connected, we're also not connected, if that makes sense.
Definitely.
Yeah, so guys, so let's move on to your experience. So I know that you both had careers within the creative/digital industry. Craig, how can you tell us a bit more about how stress has affected you over the years?
Yeah, so it's, I mean, my background obviously is, as you know, but other people listening might not know, that I used to be anorexic. I had an eating disorder, and stress would really hinder that, especially in the point where I was actually trying to improve myself and actually get over the thoughts of that food would make me sick and what it would do to me in X, Y, and Z. But what I actually found was, like, with the stresses of, say, work and what have you, I mean, digital industry is pretty strenuous. Like any businesses, I'm not going to lie, it's not like we're up and above, but it's like it is kind of difficult. It's very high pressure, like getting deadlines, a lot of deadlines, and you've got to hit them, and a lot to write, and if it doesn't work, that's not really accounted to. And so, yeah, it just, for me, it just affected that I just stopped eating, because it was something I could grab control of. It's weird, like it's strange that by not having control of like something because it's stressing you out, you can take it from elsewhere. But if anything, it just made my mental health worse. Obviously, with that, like, it hindered my ability to work, because like you said, like Dan said, that not having work to do is just as tough as stressful as if you did have lots to do. And then when you feel like you should be doing a lot, and then you feel like you can't because you're so stressed with the amount you've got to do, and then your mind's chasing on other things, like, why am I not eating, or how's that actually going to make me feel by not eating? Like, it just escalates and escalates and escalates, and it can get to a really, really dark place, really. It did for me. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm still here, and I realized that that's not the way forward. So yeah, but it can escalate just by letting it take hold.
Yeah. So
I didn't really speak to anyone about it. So yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. So I was just about to say, so how did you get past that then? How did you find the road to recovery? So
for me, I took a step back. So when I was working in one industry, like, I was having suicidal thoughts, basically, because the stresses were so high, and other things in my life were just piling up as well. It's not just one factor, it's always a number of factors, and it was just all piling up and I couldn't cope. And I think that day I decided that the easiest thing was to change one thing of my life, and the easiest thing for that was to change jobs. So I handed in my notice and did my notice period, and then I left, and it kind of worked for a little while, because I know I was addressing one at a time, but it kind of like you need to, I kind of felt like for me personally, it's not the same for everyone, but I needed to dig into a little bit of every single bit rather than just focusing on the one. But I did step away from the industry for a little while. Did me a load of good. It gave me a chance to assess what's right with me, look after myself, what have you. And then now I'm back in the industry. It was kind of scary getting back into it because you think, what if the stresses push me back down to where I was before? When in fact, because I took that time out to de-stress and look after other things in my life, that I was ready to handle those potential stresses. I knew what my triggers were and stuff like that. So I knew if I was going that way of like stop not eating or what have you, I'd be like, hang on, what's going on? This is happening, right? Go tell my boss or tell my parents. And yeah, I mean, I had a great support network from my family, really. Like I was able to just talk to them freely. Like we're kind of like an open family, like we can just talk about anything and they don't mind.
Yeah,
so I'm pretty
lucky.
Yeah, I know, and I am really grateful for that because I know that some people just don't have that support network. And I'm guessing, I mean, I have good friends as well, and if you don't have that close family support, then find your best friend or that one person you can just tell your secrets to, and they won't judge you for it. Like, and that's the thing is, I always found if I vented to someone, I was more than happy for them to vent back to me. Like, it's a give and take. Like, you just get that bond. You're not taking each other's issues on. You're just helping out to just allow someone to get rid of it.
It's decompressing, isn't it? Like letting off that pressure.
Exactly that, and that's it. Just even if it's just talking about it, even if it's yourself or a little teddy, or even just writing it down, it kind of does get away that stress, because especially if you write it down, you're almost writing like a bullet point of all your stresses or all the things you feel like you need to do and achieve, and how you could potentially do that. And when you see it in a short list or long list, however many things you've got going on, it kind of makes you physically tick it off and be like, yeah, I've achieved that, and then your stress levels should start to drop down.
Cool.
So yeah,
okay,
that worked for me. Whether it's for others, I don't know, but
yeah, so I mean that's really interesting. You know how much at Dorset Mind we love talking. A lot, in fact, the majority of our support is based on talking. So we're big fans of that, especially for men, obviously. So Dan, your experience is different, which everyone's different, which is great. So you can tell us a little bit about how your stress affected you.
Yeah, definitely. So I think for me, and to begin with, I disclosed that I live with bipolar disorder. So my symptoms of stress can often be exacerbated by that. And if I'm in a manic state or a depressed state, for that matter, so basically 90% of the time that I'm actually awake, then those aspects of stress can be quite heavily influenced by my mental health condition. But I think for me, there's a few things, and I've worked for myself for the past 5 years, and the biggest shock to the system was actually that financial uncertainty. So the peaks and troughs of income and cash flow coming in, and the not knowing that I'm able to have that sort of macho sort of supporting my family myself. Fortunately, I've got an incredible wife who she works, she's able to support our family as well as with my contribution as well. So, but that financial uncertainty, that's often taken me to some really dark places, and has forced me at times to look at alternative options, or look into really negative places, and which has subsequently meant that the workplace at times has become a very negative place for me as well, and which actually has led me to working in the mental health industry, and supporting Dorset Mind, because if I'm able to support those who are in those dark places, from a workplace point of view, then that makes me a lot better in that way. But I suppose over time, stress it's made me really poorly, to an extent where I've really tried to drive through it, historically, and really tried to ignore those symptoms. It's meant that actually my body's just given up, and it's made me physically ill, which has meant, subsequently that I've lost appetite, or, I lack sleep because of it. I'm irritable, all those symptoms that we've covered today. So, yeah.
I can't imagine you getting irritable, Dan.
Yeah.
Say that, didn't I?
I mean, I agree. I couldn't imagine Dan like that at all. Honestly.
Yeah, closed doors. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
But it happens to us all, doesn't it? I mean, I can tell my symptoms of when I get stressed. I do, as I alluded to, my sleep suffers, and I do get quite naggy sometimes. And for me, I know that, for instance, during lockdown, making sure that I was active every day was really important for me. Getting out and getting in amongst nature, and exercising is a great way for unwinding and actually focusing on what's around you rather than what's in your head. Do you guys have any other sort of coping techniques that you could share?
Definitely. Well, exercise is hugely important to me. I often go for runs, and it's really rewarding. I set myself, really tangible sort of targets to do when I'm running. And even if I've had the worst day where I've got nothing done at work, or, or I feel like I'm not achieving anything, by going for a run and going, right, today I'm going to do 5 kilometers, and, smashing that, or getting a PB, it's that, really helps with that. Another big thing for me is actually, I don't know if it's something around bipolar disorder, but I often get really unhelpful thoughts, and get quite accusational with those thoughts as well, and have to take myself to the side and question myself because of it, and actually say, is that logical? Is it sane? I suppose I could say that, to be thinking in that way, and by reframing it to look at it in those sorts of ways, it really does help me see real perspective about a situation.
Yeah, gosh, that's really interesting, because I guess it's catastrophizing, isn't it, really, in a way, and taking things to the extreme. So actually, as you say, reframing thoughts is super useful.
Oh, massively. I go down rabbit holes all the time, so it's often better to try and prevent that as opposed to getting to the bottom of that rabbit hole.
Absolutely. So are there any other things, Craig, that you can think of that we can share with people?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that, like I mentioned before, like breaking down your tasks into a list. Always start with a quick, easy win. It will always make you feel great.
I always add something that I've already done to a list, because then you can tick it off straight away.
Oh, I've already done that. I got out of bed. We're good. But yeah, I mean, one thing that really helped me was to change the way I thought about everything. So being more positive. I took a year out as D, as you know, and I took some time out of work to look after myself. And I decided that I was going to do a gratitude diary, and I did a post every day on Instagram, which, I mean, that really helped me to be more aware of what's, like you said, to be more active and to look around in your environment. And it didn't have to be like necessarily. It could be like, oh, I achieved this with this stressful thing I had going, or I finally sorted out some bills that have been bugging over my head, or what have you. But it could even be things like opening a door for an elderly person, like, or just saying hello, or smiling at a cashier person when you're in a queue. Okay, smiling's not going to work nowadays because you've got face masks on, but just understanding that everyone has issues themselves, everyone's got stresses, and everyone's doing something to better themselves, and it's just to be kind to people and be more positive in the way you approach people and what have you. And like I said, talking to people, your parents, your siblings, aunts, your uncles, your best friends, your neighbor, whoever, like anyone you can like just talk to and just won't judge, and you can feel confident like talking to them. That's the key thing, is because you don't have to be completely open and honest and like, here it all is. You just have to just talk and get something off your chest just to make you feel good, but don't hinder other people. And I'm sure you won't hinder other people by talking, because we're all humans and we all understand.
Don't you find though, Craig, that internal monologue that you tend to get, and I get it myself, where you think, I can't tell someone this as it will overburden them. In actual fact, they want to know, you know, they want to be able to help you. And actually, even by saying to someone, by the way, I'm having a really crappy day, they want to hear that so they can make your day better. And vice versa, by saying it, by actually not holding it in, you're actually going to make yourself better because of it.
Yeah. Like sorry, Dee.
I was about to say, I think that's a really good point, because you always want the best for your loved ones, your friends, your family, don't you? And if you feel that they can't share those things with you, they're bad times as well as their good times, you know, then you don't get a real sense of genuineness, because people will come almost 2D rather than 3D, if you know what I mean. I think it's really important to share those times as well. Let people know, just so that they can look out for you and check in with you a bit more often.
And it's so true. That's all right. That's a good point. And I was just going to say, the use of the word burden, it was literally the biggest thing that was coming through my head. Like, any time I spoke to my parents or anything, I was like, oh, I don't want to be a burden. And I don't know if you guys find this in this whole like remote working scenario now, where you're sending people lots of instant messages and what have you. Do you ever go, I'm really sorry for the most silly questions, or if I'm asking a lot of you, I always feel like I have to apologize for asking questions because they need help for something, or that I'm just interrupting them, when normally I could literally just turn around and be like, can I have some help, please?
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know, it could just be me, but yeah.
It's visualizing it, isn't it? I think, rather than just saying it and getting it over and done with.
I'm guessing texting is more, it takes longer and seems more interrupting than if you could tell face to face whether someone's got time to talk or to help or whatever. But in instant messaging, you're like, I don't know, I just message them and hope that I don't interrupt them. And yeah.
It's that always on culture again, though, because once you see that they're online, you kind of expect an answer, don't you? And then when they don't reply straight away, that can lead to all kinds of thoughts, I guess.
Yeah.
It does for me sometimes. Anyway, yeah. I think we should wrap up here now, guys, because I think we're getting towards the end. So I just want to say thank you for sharing what you've just shared. That was great to hear. So we've covered some signs and symptoms of stress and what you can do to alleviate the situation. If you do need help, obviously we'll encourage you to go to dorsetmind.uk, our website, where we've got a whole range of support, and there's self-care tips and directories as well if you need specific help. Thank you guys once again for giving your time as our ambassadors, and we look forward to hearing from you more in the future. Thanks, guys.
Thank you
very much. Thanks.